If you enjoy movies, comic books, and pop culture, be sure to like and subscribe.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the REC Podcast, brought to you by REC Comics and Collectibles. I'm your host, Roman Chavez, and with me, as always, Erik Icarus. Check it out. Look at this.
Oh my God.
Is that a rough week?
I have a thyroid issue.
Kids, you can find us on Instagram at REC Podcast. You can follow myself at Roman REC Podcast. You can follow the shop at REC Comics, or you can come check us out at 7679 North Union Boulevard in Colorado Springs. And with me is the beautiful Big Tuna. Yeah. That's a new form on the a new search on the sites. You know?
Exactly.
Right. Beautiful Big Tuna.
We are huge in Japan.
Oh my God. Oh man, how you been?
Pretty good. Yeah, it's been an interesting week.
Yeah.
Sort of been trying to check out some new stories. I got into a new audiobook that's being adapted into a Netflix movie. I saw the preview and I was like, I gotta check this out. Yeah. So started into it, not sure where it's gonna go.
And what's this one called?
This one's called, I think, Leave the Earth Behind, or Leave the World Behind. It's about, I don't want to say too much because I don't know too much. Julia Roberts though. In the Netflix show, in the Netflix movie. It's got Kevin Bacon, and it has oh my gosh, what's his name? 'Cause he's like kind of the poor man's Kevin Bacon. He was in Ethan Hawke.
Oh.
Yeah, and they both have like the same kind of facial hair, so like I don't know, like this is going to get confusing. But the story, the premise is, so far, a family, husband, wife, 2 kids, they go to an Airbnb for the week, kind of like maybe like in like the Carolinas or something, or sort of the like mid-Atlantic or so. While they're there, some weird stuff starts to happen. There's a EAS, which is going to be happening on Wednesday, actually.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be happening tomorrow. But like all the TV stations are out and like no one's getting any signal. And then a couple show up to the house and say they're the homeowners. Hey, we were in New York. There was a blackout. We came to be back here. And like I think they're starting to allude to the fact that like maybe these people aren't the homeowners. But like the preview to the movie on Netflix shows some stuff. Like it shows them like driving and seeing something in the sky and like turning around. So I don't know if it's going to try to take more of a sci-fi feel or a supernatural vibe. It doesn't have like the horror slasher vibe either, even though the premise kind of sounds like it. Yeah. I don't know where they're going to go with it. But it was enough for me to be like, I want to probably like read the book to at least figure out if this is something I'm going to be into. So I'm checking it out right now.
Yeah, and if you're going to do something that you have no familiarity with, like that's how you put a trailer together.
Yeah.
All those things you said. There's a good mystery. What's going on is always a great great question.
Yeah.
I remember I saw this thing on the internet, and it might actually just be a creepypasta, but it was this thing where this guy was like staying at an Airbnb, and he's like reading, some people will leave a ledger.
Yeah.
So people can talk about their experiences. And as he's getting through, like, the pages start to get a little dark. And I was like, this would be a cool short story or short film or something like that. We're still kind of in this now that because they still haven't released the details on the writer's strike, right? On what they've come to terms with.
Yeah, there's a little bit more that came out in regards to the required number of writers in the writers' room that they have to like signify if any AI was used. It sounds like they got a little bit clearer with that.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point now where like writers are back to it.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the Duffer Brothers posting on X. The artist formerly known as Twitter, saying, that we're back.
Yeah.
That's all they posted. Writing the final season of Stranger Things. The late night shows, which, again, not too many people are really into anymore. They were much bigger earlier on, but they still have a following to them.
Yeah.
A lot of them are going to be starting to come back here pretty soon. There is kind of this slow restart to Hollywood. Again, we do not have a Screen Actors Guild contract. The union is still striking. So some of those productions, while the writing team may be able to work, we're still not getting actors back in front of cameras yet.
Still need that to figure out their thing, because I don't even really know outside of the kind of basic, like, we want to make sure we're getting more money on the streaming stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what the SAG has to say when that comes together. In the meantime, there is some interesting stuff out there in the mediums of comic books, and especially in our in our little shop here. The long-awaited Transformers #1 hits shelves tomorrow from Image Comics. This was a book that had been done by Marvel in the 80s. It had been done by IDW most recently for quite some time, like several hundred issues, several miniseries, this and that. And it was like all mum on where exactly they were going to be. You figured Marvel would produce the book again, since they work so closely with Hasbro and the toys, but Image got it, which is going to be cool because they're going to be able to kind of take it up a notch a bit, because while it's giant robots fighting, it's still like they're soldiers. So some serious stuff should happen.
Now, is there going to be any carryover from any of the previous existing runs, or does this look like it's going to be like essentially like a rebooted franchise in comic book form?
That's an excellent question, and what I'm understanding is that it's going to call back from those things, because you don't want to lose the IDW guys.
Right.
You can lose the Marvel guys because it's been so long since they've done it. It was like the 80s, basically. But the... they're going to have to pull from some of that fabric, some of that, but they're trying to, hey, this is a good jumping on point.
Yeah.
I know, like, beforehand, I wasn't selling much in the way of Star Wars books, Transformers books here in the store, but when the new #1 was announced, I've got quite a few people who are interested. And, one of the hardest things about getting into comics is, where do you start? Mm-hmm. And, you can always say, oh, a #1's always good, but that #1 always has some like, oh, well, there's other things that happened before this #1 and blah, blah, blah.
So a #1 may not really truly be the genesis point.
No,
like it could be it's the #1 of the New Testament.
Yeah.
There's a whole other one there. There's a whole backstory. There's a whole prequel story there.
Yeah. So we've got some people excited about that. Like I said, it does go on sale tomorrow, which is October 4th?
October 4th.
Oh my gosh. October, man. And you're a teacher. Is it flying already?
Dude, it absolutely is. Like the end of the first quarter is coming up, like parent-teacher conferences. Mm-hmm. Like I'm still learning their names. Like this, it does feel like this year kind of has flown by, especially this fall and that sort of thing. It's interesting because I almost wonder if, when we worked at the theater together, mm-hmm. You pretty much knew what your May, your June, July was going to look like and feel like, because you had those releases, and oh my gosh, we're getting Will Smith movie 4th of July, or we're getting this comic book franchise, or this superhero story, or this or that or whatever.
Kids movie.
Kids movie. And you kind of, in a way, sort of measure your year that way. I used to, at least. Mm-hmm. And then there's sort of been this sort of, especially with the streaming platforms having, movies and series hit, it sort of kind of stretches it out. And so it just feels weird to say, but like time just feels different.
It does.
I don't know, good or bad, I don't know, but it does feel different.
And that's an interesting thing to point out, because it was like, hey, when summer hits, you get no shows. There are no new shows. Yep. You're watching Bob Barker, and you're gonna deal with it, okay?
Yeah.
But now there's just this constant influx of entertainment, which I'm not upset with by any means. However, where do you find the time?
Yeah, you got like, it used to be Memorial Day to like Labor Day.
Yeah.
And then it's like your new shows are coming back in September, mm-hmm. and these that but you had movies in the middle. You had the summer movies and these things. Now when you drop a series, even if it's an 8-episode, a 10-episode series, if you do it all at once, and you're worried about spoilers, or you're worried about missing out on the conversations at work with your buddies, whatever it is, it's sort of the where do you find the time? On the one hand, people have criticized Disney and Netflix for some of their releases that have been weekly, the episodic releases. Mm-hmm. But you know what, though? Like, with this last season of Stranger Things, where you kind of take it and you do sort of a split release, that's kind of, it's meeting the fans halfway.
Yeah.
You're giving them some episodes, some stuff to talk about. You got to plug it away. That's your weekend, if you don't want it spoiled. But then, you know what? You're able to be caught up. You're dropping a 10-episode, hour-long series. That's a hard ask. So with Loki, the reporting last week, a lot of sites were reporting that Disney was going to drop Loki all at once. That the October 6th, I think, release date was going to be Loki season 2, and then Disney put out a calendar where they were like episode 1 on this day, episode 2 on this day, and that caused a lot of people to go back and say, wait a minute, like that's not the case. So it might be good that they are doing it week to week.
Yeah. Totally. And it's kind of interesting because it keeps it in the zeitgeist. I never saw it more than when The Witcher came out, and it was either Mando season 1 or season 2. When Witcher came out, it hit. Everything came out, and for an entire week, man, nobody at my job, outside of there, they were talking about Witcher.
Yep.
But then as soon, it was like a week or two later, Mando episode 1 came out, it was like, oh, that's all people are talking about. And then they talked about it for 8-9 weeks, whatever it was. You know, like it kept it in the zeitgeist way longer. Yeah. So it does make for some interesting things to do. I'm glad they're doing it that way. I was like, man, am I going to have to burn through this because I don't want to get spoilers?
Yeah.
But yeah, if they're gonna release it episodically, let's go.
Yeah.
Another thing that's hard to make time for these days is video games. And if you want to go take care of that, is video games. There's a lot of time that I want to put out there and do things. And I told myself that when my girls are grown up and they're away, I'm going to start at Batman Arkham Knight. And I'm going to start there and I'm going to try to catch up to the video games that I've missed in being a father, because I will spend too much time playing games.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man 2 is coming out at the end of this month as well, in October. It's a great month for other mediums outside of film.
Yeah, comic and superhero fans they're eating good in October. They really are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because so on the PS4 we had Spider-Man, and then by Insomniac, and then they did Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now for the PS5, we're getting Spider-Man 2, and it's combining these two characters together in this game. We looked at, they kind of released this week a sort of like probably like a final look, if you will. The Be Greater Together as kind of their marketing. You can swap back and forth between Miles or Peter. I don't know if you can swap in combat, or they've shown some videos where you're web swinging around and then you switch, and then it jumps over to another part of New York, and Peter is crawling up on a wall and he stops, and now you've taken over. Yeah. So like the characters are kind of doing their own thing. They've talked about the map is like I think double or triple the size as it was in the previous game.
Holy crap!
So they had to retool the navigation system, because if you're web slinging for 15 minutes to get from one part of Brooklyn to where to Queens or wherever you're going. And so they've retooled a few things. We're getting Peter's got his gliding. He got the wings, the web wings kind of thing. That's supposed to allow you to kind of catch in like the slipstream and sort of extend your swing. But yeah, we've seen a little bit in the marketing already. Some major villains are going to show up. We're going to be seeing Kraven. Looks like he's going to be kind of the central protagonist. Kraven and his team are coming to New York to hunt the arachnids, the spiders.
Do you think that this was going to be like in conjunction with the original release of the film too?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay. I mean, because it's a different studio, it's a different design, different actors and voice actors and likeness. The suit looks somewhat similar. Peter's suit looks pretty similar to what they've used. There was a lot of controversy though when the original version came out, because they remastered the original and they changed the likeness of the character to look a little bit similar to a Tom Holland-like person. He didn't do any of the voice work or motion capture. This is supposed to be its own separate universe. However, Kraven, Lizard, and the Lizard like kind of has more of a dinosaur look. I actually kind of dig it. Like you see it like in the water, you see the spines popping up, kind of like Nessie sort of. He's like Peter's like, I gotta find Dr. Connors, I gotta help him and stuff. But we see in the marketing both Venom as separate, and we see Peter with the symbiote suit on him. It gives you tentacle powers, gives you different things, more aggression, I guess. Punches hit harder, that sort of thing.
You can kill people with one punch.
So again, we're seeing some other villains. Looks like we're probably getting a Mysterio in the game universe. We may even get some sort of Green Goblin. Norman Osborn is in the first game as Norman Osborn. I guess the end post credit to the game teases him walking up to like a glass case that has like a black like tentacle or something, kind of teasing where they were going to go with this. So again, as a comic book fan, these kind of games are really lean into the story. Like you were saying with the Batman Arkham series, they give you a good game and they give you a really good story. And for a large part of our time growing up, if you're getting any game that was any sort of superhero tie-in, you were getting a pretty terrible story, and you're getting pretty basic gameplay. Yeah. But now they're giving us AAA games that they're investing heavy money into, and Rocksteady with Batman Arkham Knight, like that just hit on all cylinders. It told a really cool story, gave us a different kind of origin with Jason Todd, the Arkham Knight, and some of that, which then created characters that they could bring in outside. Yeah. So getting to see Arkham Knight showing up in other comic tie-ins and the figures and those things, really cool to see.
Because at the end of the day, we're just trying to sell toys and product from these things. And they finally figured out, like, oh, if we make a good... Because I remember, like you said, like there was a Wolverine game that kind of came around the time X-Men Origins came out, and it's garbage. It's garbage. And, you know, I'm trying to think, the only really good movie thing was Spider-Man 2 that you know, from when I was younger.
Spider-Man 2 had a really good following in terms of it being a movie tie-in. So you've got like Tobey Maguire doing the voice work. Your narrator is Bruce Campbell. You know, and it gave you a larger open world.
It was like one of the first to do something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, if you go down the line, one of the franchises, one of these groups that has really struggled to make a solid game is the X-Men. They've done a few different versions. They've done some original stories. They did some tie-ins. X-Men 2, X-Men United got a tie-in. X-Men Origins did get a tie-in. I will say this about the X-Men Origins tie-in. While it was not well received by the fans, as the movie was not either, it was also rated M for mature. And they were like, they made it the Wolverine that we're probably going to be getting in Deadpool 3. So now, with there being a lot of different X-Men stories in the game universe, it'll be interesting to see where Disney is going to take X-Men.
Yes, it was announced is the wrong word, but somebody from inside Disney was saying that they are accepting more or less layouts, pitches for the MCU's version of the X-Men. I mean, I'm full of emotion right now because I'm an X-Men guy. That's my comic. That was my gateway drug, was X-Men. And I've been very disappointed with a lot of the product that they've put out and the 9+ X-related films that they've done. Now, initially I was like, oh man, they're taking scripts. But yeah, it's definitely just like rough drafts because there's going to be things that writers can do, cannot do. Characters, you know, if you wrote one and I wrote one, we would most likely have different X-Men besides a few of the key players. So they're trying to see what's going to stick.
Yeah, and you know, again, it's, you know, it's not to say that, because all the time, whenever these stories are adapted, right, and I think back to the Edgar Wright Ant-Man situation, or I think back to the Solo with Chris Miller and Phil Lord, you know, with doing the Han Solo prequel. You know, it could be that someone pitches a really good story, an interesting take, something that fans have not seen before, but it allows us to explore the characters in a new way. But the square peg may just not fit that round hole. And so there could be writing teams, there could be people pitching some of these concepts, and Disney may say, listen, that's very interesting as an X-Men story. It doesn't fit in our MCU. And so, you know, now I don't think we're ever going to really fully know who all has pitched to Marvel. What they pitched. Sometimes
James Gunn.
Sometimes that stuff does come out. But I am hoping that we do not get, as much as I love Guardians of the Galaxy, okay? Because you can go back, you know, go through the last 307 episodes, and you know I'm a James Gunn believer. I don't want to see the X-Men done like Guardians. I like, as much as, you know, Guardians ties in the whole family bond and these things and stuff, I need my X-Men to be something different. That doesn't mean it has to be this dark, gritty, no one's happy, everyone's brooding sort of thing, but I don't know. I don't want to see them lean into the family aspect as much, because we've gotten that so much. We've seen it done well, and we've seen it not done well in the MCU. So I don't want to see them try to do that again.
And what's interesting about the X-Men is that, like, you say that, like, there's a few of the X-Men you think that have, like, you know, like, oh, they feel like family, but it's not it really does feel like people all at the same school, like people you know. And you have the people you went to school with, you have a certain love for some of them just because you've been through so much together. But yeah, at the end of the day, they're not a family. On the weekend, they're going elsewhere to go do other things and hang out with other people. But like, get that teamwork across, get the team building for sure. And you brought this up before the show, and we've talked about it before. We might have to do something different with Magneto.
Yeah. You know, when it comes to the Magneto storyline, as much as I was blown away by Ian McKellen's portrayal, and you know you get this tie-in to his story as a child in a camp and the tattoo on the arm and stuff. It helps you better understand when X-Men first came out. When the First Class movies were coming out, and Days of Future Past, and they were doing the, like, Xavier was right, Magneto was right, like, where some of the best villains, some of the most complex villains are the ones where you say, I get it.
Yeah.
Not that you agree with everything they do, but you understand how someone could kind of reach that radicalized conclusion.
Yeah.
It's 2023. It's going to be 2026 at least before we get an X-Men movie. Maybe a little bit later, depending on how all of this writer's strike and Screen Actors Guild stuff, ripples throughout time, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be removed from the Holocaust. 1941, really early 1942 to 1944, okay? Into 45 with the liberation of the camps, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be removed from that by 80-some years.
Yeah.
Okay? So the question is going to be, are they going to take the route of trying to do what has been rumored with Fantastic Four, and that is give us a period piece? Mm-hmm. But again, I don't know how that works in the MCU. How do we have the existence of mutants in the world without their existence being acknowledged tangentially with Captain America? Gosh, could you imagine a scene where they're liberating camps? And you get Chris Evans as a cameo, and you get was it Neil McDonough, the Dum Dum Dugan?
Oh yeah.
Walking by, and like you see the actor that's playing young Magneto or something. Okay, so either they existed prior, and are never acknowledged in these like 30-some MCU projects until now. And I know, yes, don't come at me. I know that Ms. Marvel's like, oh, they use the M word or whatever. But again, their presence is not known.
Yeah.
Okay. Just like how Namor and his people, their presence is not known. Just like how the Inhumans, their presence was not known. So again, I'm tired of this story of them saying, oh, we're just going to place them back. And there was the rumor that Fantastic Four was going to take place in the 60s.
Yeah.
I don't want that. They've already created a universe, and it's just going to be too much to try to explain that these people existed and just no one knew about it, right? Now with Magneto, if you're not going to do the Holocaust story, you can do the genocide, the targeted people, and these things.
Just make it a little vague.
Yeah, make it a little vague. Or you know what? If Marvel really wants to lean in, and I made this mention, I think off camera a few weeks ago, what if Latveria was involved in these? And so you get like Magneto and his family were victims of the Doom family. And Doom comes to power, and he's like, listen, I'm not my grandfather who made those decisions, who ordered the construction of people to be rounded up. Maybe not like a same Holocaust, but like, a targeting of a group of people and these things. That would be interesting, to tie in some of these villains. Because it would be really interesting to see a Magneto villain and a Doom villain not on the same page, so give us complex characters.
And you get that world because you get those, they give us a new door to the house, but it doesn't. It opens out instead of in or something. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't fit this 12, 13-year thing we've been doing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also too, like what you were saying, one thing that might be really cool, and one thing that I think the X-Men and X-Men 2 did fairly well, is they let the grown-ups be the grown-ups.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of X-Men 2 is really like the middle third of the movie, which is the stuff at the mansion until it gets raided and they have to leave the mansion. Like, I don't want to see a Cyclops leading the team yet. Like, I want to see him as a kid. I want to see him listening to someone who's older. Maybe it's Beast. Maybe it's Colossus. Maybe it's Morph. Whatever. And they're Forge. They're following some of these people so that we see these characters grow into these roles, and they're already doing that in the MCU. Now, I'm going to drop a rumored spoiler. Okay. So this is a The Marvels potential spoiler. So we'll do a spoiler countdown. Here we go. It has been rumored that one of the two post-credit scenes in Miss Marvel's is going to feature Kamala Khan as doing a kind of like a quick rehash of all the events of the movie that take place in the Marvels, doing a quick verbal vomit about what she's just been through to Kate Bishop. And pretty much saying they're off doing their own thing, why don't we do ours? Did you know Ant-Man has a daughter? And kind of setting up a Young Avengers sort of thing.
And they've been laying that groundwork for years now.
Yes, we've already seen our Kid Loki. We've seen the Hulk has a son. We've seen Miss Marvel. We've seen Kate Bishop. We've seen Cassie.
We've seen Elijah Bradley, who is
Elijah
Patriot.
Bradley. Yes,
we see the twins in Vision.
Oh yeah.
WandaVision.
WandaVision. Yeah, exactly. So they've kind of already laid the groundwork there. Mm-hmm. It would be interesting if they laid the groundwork for the future X-Men team in the X-Men movie.
Yes.
Which they kind of try to do when they branch from X2 to X3, where it's like Iceman and stuff, and like Rogue is very much a kid in the first one, like they're coming after
she's
her.
a woman in the last one.
She's not a girl, not yet a woman. So again, I think if Marvel's smart about it, they can give us a new original take on these characters that have a very storied history that for some people might feel like any changes is messing with canon. But again, as fans, we have to understand, and my hope is that we really get the idea that we need to see new and changing stories. There are certain things about X-Men they shouldn't change. There are some things that might need to. Obviously, playing up the civil rights, the inequality, the unfair treatment was a big part of a lot of X-Men storylines. They can continue to do that, but they need to do it in a way that fits the world that they've created, the universe of the MCU.
Yeah, because, I mean, as much as the MCU is clearly like modern era time, I mean, so many things are different. We know that they're at least 5 years ahead of us in continuity.
Which weirdly enough, this month is the month that Black Widow and Iron Man die. This month, October 2023, is the catch-up to Endgame.
Wow.
It is. Because 5 years removed from Infinity War is 2023.
Wow. Dude, you're right.
Yeah.
So they're in 2028. They're already doing X-Men movies. We don't even know about them yet, dude. We don't even know. I'm curious to see what the roster construction will be, because I don't think you need Wolverine right off the bat. As much as Wolverine's a seller, we will let Hugh Jackman,
give us some time.
Give it some time. And I'm all aboard the Daniel Radcliffe. One picture of him,
dude,
he was all jacked.
Daniel Radcliffe, Scott Eastwood.
Yeah,
I think there's even a Liam Hemsworth. Like, there's a way they could go about it in a smart way. Yes, I know. I'm telling you. Now, again, when it comes back to Wolverine, like, we lay the groundwork for learning, Professor X and his team learn about a group of military extremists who are experimenting on mutants. Give us that groundwork for a Weapon X sort of thing. And they encounter him down the road. Don't give us it all at once.
Yeah, because, and you may or may not be aware of this, but, technically, they retconned it in comics, but Captain America is Weapon 1.
Right. Okay.
And then Weapon X is actually Weapon 10. And I think Weapon 12 is Deadpool. So it's just like these government-sponsored ones that they're it kind of spent out of the Manhattan Project in comics, which was not just nuclear stuff. It was also super soldier serum. So that would be really cool to see. Like you said, I would love, Chris Evans even just said recently that he's not closing the door, but he's like, I can't see them wanting me to do anything. But flashback stuff, let's go.
Dude, speaking of flashbacks, how awesome will it be to see the Manhattan Project and get Cillian Murphy rolling up in there as Oppenheimer, crossing universes, I'd love it.
Oh my gosh. I'm excited. I know that this is just a little breadcrumb, but it's what I need. I've been waiting for really good X-Men MCU stuff this entire time. I did enjoy X1, X2, obviously Logan. I like the Wolverine as well. Even though it's so crazy, but it's actually not bad. And Hugh Jackman's the reason that you enjoy it. And I've been seeing his workout videos.
Yeah.
And I mean, they probably should have been done with most of the production by this time, and you see him working out, and he just looks so oh God, how did I let Ryan talk me into this again? Because he was always so big about it sucks being Wolverine.
Well, he's got all this time now. Him and Ryan, they get to go to Chiefs games. They get to go hang out with Travis Kelce's girlfriend, whatever her name is.
Yeah,
She's a musician.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't realize this, but Sophie Turner was there.
Yeah.
And obviously the rumor about Swiftie being a Dazzler. I mean, there's a real word where we just saw 4 X-Men from the Deadpool 3 movie.
That's probably why they were there. They were shooting some background stuff.
There was another picture I saw today. You see Blake and Ryan and everything coming out of this place, and you also see Channing Tatum.
Oh my god!
So it's
dude, give us the Gambit that we never got.
I don't like Channing Tatum as Gambit, but I will see it in a Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
I'll put myself.
Yeah, if they're nuking the Fox universe, they're gonna give us that character and then kill. Yeah.
And if there's any way to bring back Frasier, what's his name?
Brendan Fraser?
No, like the character Frasier from the show.
Oh, Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer
as Beast is one of the absolute most fantastic casting ideas. Like he fits the voice. He sounds smart and clever. And man, that look for all of the weird stuff with X-Men 3, with the weird Juggernaut look, with the weird Quill guy.
Yeah.
But man, they like absolutely nailed that character design. Yeah. Absolutely.
And then we got a little taste of him in that in Days of Future Past. And he looks great. I mean, in the 90s during Wizard magazine, I don't know if you ever saw that. It was a comic book magazine, but they would do like fan casting in there, and it was always Patrick Stewart for Xavier and Kelsey Grammer for Beast.
Wow.
Schwarzenegger was often for Colossus. But that ship had sailed quite some time ago. I'm excited. We still can't forget that Fantastic Four is being worked on.
Yep.
It's been, John Watts left it, but I mean, they still had scripts and all of this stuff. I mean, when are they going to announce any of that?
I don't know. A lot of weird projects have kind of fallen between the cushions at Marvel. A Blade movie.
I was just going to say Blade.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, is it going to reach that development hell where you can't get a director to get on board, find the screenplay they like, and then Marvel says, okay, we like all of this together. Because it appears as though these creative differences between the director doesn't like this screenplay, or that, like, it's just a lot of stuff is not lining up for that story. Which, again, as much as people were like, oh my gosh, like, this is so great, Black Panther, we're getting our first, like, black comic book character, and we're getting Deadpool, our first R-rated movie, and Wesley Snipes is just looking over there,
From his New Line Cinema shed that they bought him.
With the CG'd open,
Apparently that was more marketed less as a comic book and more as like a horror film.
Yeah.
But it's still the genesis. Like every kid in our age group that watched Blade was like, that was a cool comic book movie. Even if you didn't read the comics. You had seen Blade in the Spider-Man animated series.
That's how I knew him.
Yes.
That's the only way that I knew he was at all affiliated with any kind of comic book, was seeing him, seeing Punisher, like in that storyline they did with like the Man Spider stuff. Like that's the only way I knew about him. And so seeing that movie, my brother and I went to the theater, like they did not card back in the 90s. We're at the Chapel Hills Mall and we're watching this, and I'm like watching blood rain down from the sprinkler system, and I'm like, this is genius. Like, is this what art is? It's like Michelangelo looking up at the ceiling and being like, yeah, I did a good job.
Yeah, and it was a big techno fight before Matrix,
Yes,
like it really walked so the rest of the MCU could run. Kids, that is our show. If you like what we're doing, please hit that subscribe button. Click that little bell so you know when we have new content up. Let us know what you think. I'd love to hear some of your team builds for the X-Men movie. Some story arcs that you might like to see them play from. And is the Holocaust stuff, are we too far removed from it? I'm very curious to see what you guys think. Big Tuna, you get to give us some final words today.
Yeah, here's my final word. Most people don't realize very underrated actor who played Harvey Bullock in the Gotham series, Donald Logue, is one of the villains in Blade.
Oh, yeah. He was you can slice him, you can dice him, but the Quid Man keeps on coming. Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, perfect 90s cheese villain.
Dude, and he was with Sofia Vergara for like 3 or 4 years.
Oh, interesting.
Can you even believe that? Kids, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I have been your host, Roman Chavez. And for the Big Tuna, we will catch you on the next podcast.